All right, hey everybody, this is Andrew Maraniss. I'm the author of Singled Out, a new biography of Glenn Burke, who was the first openly gay Major League Baseball player and the inventor of the high five. And he was also a graduate of Berkeley High School. And so today I'm excited to have another Berkeley High alum, Ruppert Jones, a former big leaguer who has come out with a new book of his own. And I can't recommend it highly enough. It's called Never Give Up, Baseball and Traumatic Brain Injury, which is not necessarily a topic that, you know, we hear a lot about. We hear about traumatic brain injury in football and hockey and other sports, but not as much in baseball. And Ruppert, I was so excited to get to know you over these last about a year now, really. You know, we've had a chance to do a few events together, and I'm really thrilled to have a chance to interview you for this podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic, Andrew. I think we did the podcast before with your group.
That's right.
Vanderbilt Society. Right. I had a nice time.
Yeah, that was so much fun. I was teaching a course for the Vanderbilt Sports and Society program and for the Osher Lifelong Learning program. So we had a number of folks that were able to ask questions to Ruppert about his playing days in the major leagues and everything that he's gone through over the years. And Ruppert, before we get into the details of your story, just generally, why was it important for you to write a book?
You know, I lived so long looking for answers. You know, I didn't know what was happening with me. I didn't understand what was happening with me. And I kept looking, I kept searching. And when I found out, it felt good. And then I decided to start recording, doing some writing. And the writing became therapeutic. I actually healed for a long time. You know, basically, I lived in a bad world, you know, between my ears. And when I start writing and start recording things and start putting things down, I start purging myself of a lot of guilt, resentment, anger, frustration. You can name it. You know, I lost so much that, you know, I carried that with me. But when I found out that, hey, I got an answer for this, and I actually started feeling better about myself, because I realized, you know, you've overcome a lot on your own. You know, you overcame a lot on your own without even knowing. So to answer your question, Andrew, it was very, very rewarding. I had moments where, you know, I had writer's block and I couldn't write for a while.
Right.
You know, or sometimes the emotion got so deep, you know, that I had to kind of like back away and come at it. But it seems like with each passing year that it took me to write it, new information materialized, new things present themselves to me. So I was able to put them in the book.
Wow. Well, it was just a really interesting book for me to read. And I felt for you, you know, as I was reading it, I was proud of the progress you were making. And we'll get into the discoveries that you made on traumatic brain injury, you know, and really there was a 30-year period there where there were very few answers because it just wasn't being talked about the way the issue is now. And you were really all alone in the dark trying to figure things out. And that was a fascinating part of the story for me. But again, before we get to that, what's been the reaction that you've received from people who have now starting to read the book? It's been out for a couple of weeks now. Have you started to hear from people who have read it, or any old teammates or fans? What's the reaction been?
A lot of people have expressed the same kind of emotion that you have expressed. They said, well, the story is, they said they couldn't put it down. They said it was very easy reading and they really enjoyed the story. And they said, you're going to help a lot of people. And then a lot of people confessed to me that I helped them, or I helped somebody that they know. And he said, and they would tell me, a lot of people are going to be affected by this.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I want to walk through.
You said something about not being alone.
Yeah.
The title of the book was, my first title was going to be, I Am Not Alone.
Right.
Or You Are Not Alone. Because I found out that I was not alone. And that was going to be the title. And then I thought about it and I said, that's nice, but never give up is a more appropriate title.
Yeah, yeah.
Because there's a lot of opportunities that you can give up.
Well, I think your story will be inspiring for people who are going through the same types of effects of traumatic brain injury, but also so many other mental health challenges they're facing in their lives. And the message not to give up is an important one, certainly. And getting back to the you're not alone. I mean, for so many years that you were dealing with the effects, it was kind of pre-internet days. So you didn't even really have the ability to search online. And I was interested when we do get to that point of the story where that online research became such an important part of what you and Betty, your wife, were doing to sort of rediscover parts of your own story, reading about the incident where you ran into the outfield fence and stories from players and trainers that were there that you had never heard before, but then also reading about other athletes dealing with brain injury. And that sort of that self-discovery, that research became such an important part of your healing process.
It's funny. You say other baseball players, and there was two in particular, Tony Conigliaro and Kirby Puckett. And I said, I'm gonna do a search on those gentlemen. And I searched them and I said, this is strange. They both died at age 45. They both got hit, got beamed in the head. Right about the eye. And the eye, that's the brain. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying, wow, this is strange. Okay. So, and then another guy told me he had a friend recently. I had a friend that ran into a wall. He said he had an aneurysm 10 years ago. Hmm. And that's what Tony Conigliaro had, an aneurysm. And I'm saying, wow, I'm pretty fortunate.
Yeah, no kidding. And I think Joe Mauer was another story that you read about that got you searching too, right? Justin Morneau, that's right. Another twin.
Justin Morneau.
Right.
Actually, he was the one that all the bells went off. Because he got hurt and he was out for a long time, and he only hit the second baseman's knee with his helmet, with his head. And I'm saying, hold on. I ran into a wall, and I really started going at it then. Well, and a lot of stuff was coming. A lot of information was coming at me.
And that's when all the pieces started to sort of slowly fall together over the course of the years. So I do want to go back and walk through some of your life experiences before the incident. I knew you had been born in Texas, and Tyler grew up in Tyler, Texas, until your family moved to the Bay Area. And you write about this in the book. What was it like for a kid from Tyler to show up in Berkeley, California in the 1960s? What do you remember about those first impressions?
They were for me to say that they were overwhelming would be an understatement, because I was not used to the kind of atmosphere that I was in. I was not used to, so many people and in such a small space, and the behavior and the beliefs they had, because that was right, free love and, acid, marijuana, I mean, on and on and on. And I'm saying, wow, man, this place is strange. This place is, scary. I used to walk by the campus every day for about a week, come home from summer school. And it would just amaze me how the people just openly they were different. To say I was prepared for it, I would be lying. Right. However, I was strong enough to deal and persevere with it. And basically, I think, in all honesty, Andrew, I think I was prepared at a young age to experience what I experienced.
Okay. And talk about, great, there's always been great athletes coming out of Texas, but the East Bay, the Bay Area, your high school alone, how many major leaguers have come out of that Berkeley High School and other schools in Oakland and Berkeley? Can you talk about just the type of competition, the types of friends you had who went on to great things as professional athletes.
Well, the gentleman that you wrote about, Glenn Burke, when I met him, I had been in Berkeley for 3 years, 7th grade, 8th grade, 9th grade. I met Glenn when I was in 9th grade. And when I saw Glenn, I said, Jimmy, Crispin, this guy is light years. I mean, he's phenomenal. He was a basketball player that was just, basically second to none. And then when I played baseball with him, I'm saying, he's even just as good, if not better, as a baseball player. Glenn just liked basketball better because basketball was, an exciting game and everything else.
Right.
But if Glenn was a great baseball player too. And I tell people to this day, he's the best athlete I ever seen.
Yeah, and you've seen quite a few.
I've seen quite a few.
How about Claudell Washington, another teammate of yours?
And I tell people Claudell Washington is the best baseball player I ever seen. And I told a friend of mine that, Vince Coleman. He said, man, you play with all them dudes? I said, yeah, I played with Claudell, man. I said, let me tell you Claudell's story. I said, I played against Claudell in Pony League. He was 14 years old. He stopped playing baseball. He didn't play baseball from after age 14. I played with him when he was 14, 13 years old. He didn't play baseball from age 14 to 17. We had a Connie Mack team. We only had 9 players. And we had 10 players. And we needed more players. So we asked Claudell to play. He hadn't played in 3 years. He came out, he played, he hit 650. And the A's signed him after 4 weeks on the sandlot. Okay. Claudell goes to Coos Bay, Oregon, rookie ball. Then he goes to Burlington. It's in Iowa.
Okay.
I think it's Iowa.
Yeah.
Then he goes down to the Southern League. In 2 years, he's in the big leagues at age 19. So from age 17 to age 19, he proved that he could play in the big leagues. Unbelievable.
After not having played for 3 or 4 years.
And had picked the ball up. I tell people that story and they can't believe it. But I saw it.
Yeah.
I lived it.
So you're drafted by the Kansas City Royals. And one of my favorite scenes in the book, people talk about what was your welcome to the big leagues moment, and they ask baseball players that. And I love the story you told about the first time you took batting practice in a group with, I think, 3 or 4 veterans. Can you tell that story?
When I came up, the rookies didn't have nothing to say. They couldn't say anything. The veterans controlled everything. So I was in the group with Amos Otis, Hal McCray, and John Mayberry. So when it was our turn to hit, I jumped into the cage. And John Mayberry said, where you going, rookie? I said, I'm going to hit. He said, has McCray hit? No. He said, has Amos hit? No. He said, have I hit? No. He said, well, get your ass out the cage. So I had to get out the cage and I had to hit last. So right away, they let me know. It's the pecking order.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that though, because it's a respect, respect for the veterans. I think the young kids nowadays, they don't experience that. They don't experience that kind of treatment when they come to the big leagues.
Right. Did those guys eventually take you under their wing?
Oh, they were nice to me.
Yeah.
They were good teammates. They just let me know you
Right.
don't hit before we do.
Yeah. And so then you're playing in Venezuela in the Winter League, and you find out that you're headed to a new team. I always hear about how you were the first pick in the expansion draft for the Mariners, but it sounds like you didn't even really know that was a possibility. Is that right?
I had no clue about expansion that year. I had no clue that 2 new teams was coming in. Okay. I just know that I was in Kansas City for a little while, and I got a real job. And I said, oh no, I don't like this real job. So I asked the team to, could they get me a winter job in baseball? So they got me a job in Caracas. And I went down to Caracas and I started playing. Well, I hadn't played baseball in about 3 months because I was hurt. I was in the big leagues on the bench, and then a month in Kansas City. So when I went there, I was not ready. So I struggled right away. But then like November, first week in November, I found out that there was an expansion draft, and the Seattle Mariners drafted me the first player in the draft. I said, what did this mean? Well, this means that you got a chance to play in the big leagues. So I immediately asked for Caracas to give me my release, let me go home. And I went home and got ready for the baseball season.
Okay. What was it like that first year with an expansion team? Everything's brand new. You probably know the team's not going to be great, but you're going to get to play every day. The fans are excited. Was that a fun experience for you with the Mariners?
Andrew, I was in the big league with Kansas City for 2 months. Okay. I didn't start that much. I didn't play that much. I was 21 years old. I wanted to play, man. So the opportunity to play to play baseball, to play every day, that was more appealing to me than playing on a team and sitting on the bench.
Mm-hmm.
So I got a chance to play. So I was very happy. And we had a team where the guys that was on our team, Seattle, we played hard. We competed every night. We lost 100 games, but we competed every night. And it was a pleasure to play with those gentlemen.
Yeah. At its best, and I know you went through, a lot of low points, which we'll talk about, but at its best, what was the life of a Major League Baseball player? What were you enjoying about it the most?
After 1980, I can't say that, I really can understand or I can put my finger on what was it like, because after 1980, I suffered from things I didn't know.
Right.
I couldn't sleep. I had, to this day I can't sleep, Andrew. But before 1980, and I had that incident, baseball was I loved playing baseball. 1976 is when I really started liking baseball, because I played football in high school, I played basketball in high school. So my love for baseball took a couple of years in the minor leagues for me to really start loving baseball.
Okay.
And then in 1976, when I was in Omaha, I started loving baseball. So from 76 to 1980, I had a great love, a great passion for the game. Anybody who played with me, they would tell you that I played hard every day. I came to the ballpark and I played hard every day.
One of my favorite stories is that you describe a game where your Vita Blue is on the mound for Oakland, I guess, and you had a couple tough at-bats against him, and then things changed. Can you tell the story of that game?
Oh, man. I hope Vita read this book too. Read this part of the book. First time I faced Vita, Vita threw hard and his ball rose. Vita with left-hand pitchers, left-handers usually had the ball going, wiggling like a snake. Vita ball rose. So he would throw it, belt high or, down knee high, and it would jump up in the strike zone. Well, my first time I faced him, he threw me 3 fastballs. I swung at all 3 and didn't even foul one off. So the second time I come to the plate, he threw me 3 more fastballs. I swung at 3 fastballs and didn't foul one off. I'm not talking about hitting it, I'm talking about fouling it, at least
right.
Fouling it. So now I've seen 6 pitches and I'm struck out twice. So I watched him throw a curveball to Danny Meyer, and Danny Meyer was a left-hand hitter like me. Danny Meyer hit a home run off of it. I said, okay, I'm gonna have to look for that curveball. So I come to the plate the 3rd time. He throws me that fastball. I take it for strike 1, Andrew. He throws me that fastball again. I take it for strike 2. I don't even swing the bat. So now he throws the 3rd pitch. He throws me a curveball. And I hit it out the ballpark up in the stands. And boy, was he mad. I was coming around first base. How the hell did you hit that pitch? You ain't got no business hitting that pitch. I said, it was the only one I could hit, and I was looking for it. And he was mad.
He's yelling at you as you're around the base.
As I'm rounding the bases. That was a conversation.
That's awesome. All right. So then you head to New York, and it's August 25th, 1980. The Yankees are on the road at Oakland. And I know that some of this story you didn't remember at the time it happened, but you learned about a lot of it later. But can you tell people the story of what happened that night in Oakland?
This is the only thing I can tell you, Andrew. Before the game, I talked with Tommy John, my starting pitcher. Tommy had been throwing, Tommy's a sinker ball pitcher, so he throws the ball and the ball sinks. Well, his ball hadn't been sinking as well as it was early in the season. So I said, Tommy, when Tommy Armour's come to the plate, I want to play more towards left center field because, he's dead pull hitter. I play against Tony in the minor leagues. So I know. Tommy said, no, I want you right there in right center field. Tommy want me to play all the hitters in right center field because when he threw his sinker, if they tried to pull it, the right-hand hitters, they would hit ground balls at shortstop or they hit ground balls at third base. But if they squared it up, they would hit to right center field. I said, okay. So I had to, I did what he wanted. When Tony Holmes came to the plate, this is the only thing I remember. Tony Holmes comes to the plate, Tommy winds up and throws, and I see his ball and it's flat. Well, I started running before Tony hit it because I knew where it was going. And that's the last thing I remember. I was chasing his ball and woke up in the hospital 12 hours later.
And the outfielders who came and saw you laying there had some scary stories to tell that you learned later about what condition you were in when they first found you in the outfield.
I didn't find that out until 2012 when I saw an article that was written.
They were worried you were going to choke on the tobacco in your mouth, choke on your tongue. All right. The trainer said it was the worst they'd ever seen anyone full speed run into the wall, which was not padded.
Yes. Well, I chased fly balls, Andrew. I was good at what I did. I chased fly balls. I loved doing it. And from what I understand, they said I lost my balance, which is what happened. I lost my balance. Okay. And that was it, man.
Yeah. Initially in the hospital and the days after, were you more concerned about your shoulder or your head?
Man, they both were bad. My shoulder was broke, definitely. As a matter of fact, the first thing I said when I woke up, when I became conscious, they said I was conscious the night before. I don't remember. I just remember waking up and saying, my shoulder is broke and my head is killing me. And that's all I remember.
And then how soon was it after that you really noticed your life was beginning to change? I mean, you write about your mind racing, and these blackout periods that you were having. That happened right away. What were the effects that you started to notice?
They happened, the blackouts and all those things happened gradually. But as far as the mind was concerned, it was like it started out right away. I couldn't sleep for long periods of time. And my mind it couldn't shut down. I could play a game, I could have a good game, I could have a bad game. It didn't matter. My brain wouldn't shut down. I couldn't get it to quiet down. And it would race. I think if you talk to a lot of people who have some brain issues, that would be one of the things that they said. As a matter of fact, when I saw the movie Concussion, Andre Waters in the scene with he's talking to Dave Dorson, he said, the voices, man, the voices in my head are nonstop. And right away, I knew what he was saying. I watched the movie Concussion, and basically, I cried the whole movie.
You saw yourself in those characters.
I cried the whole movie.
Yeah.
Tears rolled down my eyes the whole movie. But this wasn't until 2016.
36 years after you ran into the fence.
Yeah.
Wow. And so your mind's racing, you're trying to get it to settle down, and you turn to some forms of sort of self-medication that were destructive. Can you talk about that? I think it's a really human and relatable and honest part of the book that you share how you dealt with it.
Alcohol, cocaine, distractions. Okay, you can't run from your mind, but you try, and so you got distractions. So the alcohol and the cocaine would distract me, so I wouldn't be so inwardly focused. And that is how I slept a lot of times when I got to sleep, because I would get inebriated so I can go to sleep, or I could go to sleep. And that went on for a couple of years. It got worse. There were times when I would not do things, but it didn't matter. I still couldn't sleep. So it took me a while just to learn how to understand, just to learn how to, deal with this. Anger and frustration was a big part of it. Anger, I could get angry or I can get upset just like that. So I had to kind of like start watching my temperament. And I really had to kind of like police myself so I didn't lose control. Because I lost control on a couple of occasions, and it kind of scared me because I saw what I was capable of doing.
Yeah, it sounds like you were afraid you were going to kill Alan Wiggins that one time.
I probably would have if two of my teammates hadn't been there.
Yeah, and you didn't really know where this was coming from. It was like, this wasn't you. On the cocaine side, I'm just kind of curious, like, how does that work? You describe scenes where like you're using cocaine in the middle of the All-Star game, between innings, on the field itself. Like, are you carrying it out in your uniform pocket or something? Or like, how does it get into the clubhouse? How does that all work in the major leagues?
Andrew, once I started taking medication, they were giving me a medication that was a stimulant.
Right.
Okay, to stimulate my brain. Okay.
Prescribed medication. Right.
I was taking prescribed, but the cocaine was like.
Right. Same effect.
Same effect. And I found that unusual. I think I wrote that in the book too. I said, here I was snorting cocaine 30 years ago, but now I'm prescribed it. I'm prescribed a stimulant. Yes, the cocaine stimulated my brain. Okay, this is like people with ADD and and ADHD. Right. They give them Ritalin. They give them a stimulant.
Now, it wasn't like your baseball playing, though, declined necessarily right away. I mean, all this is going on, and you show up with the Detroit Tigers in the middle of their, amazing season, go to the World Series. It sounds like you had a lot of fun with that Tigers team in '84.
I had a lot of fun. That was a fun year. It was a difficult year. It started out as a very difficult year, because of the reputation that I had built while I was here in San Diego. I couldn't get a job, and Pittsburgh Steelers called me they called me on a Friday, and they wanted me in spring training on Sunday. Okay, so I couldn't leave till Saturday because the day was, you had 3 hours difference in getting the flight into Bradenton, Florida. So I had to leave Saturday. I left Saturday. I pulled into Bradenton Saturday night, midnight, and I got to be on the field the next day, Sunday at 9 o'clock. So I'm on the field at 9 o'clock Sunday, and with Pittsburgh, and I started spring training. I played A games in the mornings. I played B games in the afternoon. I was on the field. I was at the ballpark all day. But it was the best at that time. Probably was the best spring training I ever had because I was playing all the time, and I was hitting well and I was doing well. So I thought I had a chance to make that Pittsburgh team, and then I didn't make that team. Then I had to come home. I had to come home because I didn't have a job. And my agent called me up middle of April, and he said, somebody's interested in you. I said, well, who is it? He said, you'll never guess. I said, well, I'm not going to guess then. Who is it? He said, the Detroit Tigers. I said, hold on. They like 15-0, aren't they? He said, yeah, but they want you. They want you to go to Evansville to play. So I packed up, went to Evansville. I struggled for a little while in Evansville when I first got there. And I can, and then I started playing well. I started playing real well. And then I had in my contract where I could opt out of my contract with the Tigers if I'm not in the big league by June 1st. And the Tigers called me up, or called my agent up and told him and said, hey, we like to keep Ruppert. We know we got to June 1st to get him in the big league, but we got to make a roster move. And we can't get it done that fast. So my agent told me, well, look here, the Tigers, they want to keep you, but they can't bring you up now because they need to make a roster move for you. He said, however, there's 2 or 3 other teams that want you right now. And so I told my agent, I said, well, not one of those teams called me in April. Now they calling me. I said, Detroit called me. I said, I'm gonna give them a chance to do what they said they're gonna do. And June 5th, I was in the big leagues. And I played with them. Great time. Andrew, without a doubt, winning is everything. When you win, you'll never forget it. We go to Detroit every 5 years to celebrate our anniversary, 30th anniversary, 35th anniversary, and they still haven't won a championship. Those people in Detroit still remember our team. We were together 2019 for the 35th anniversary. And it was like magic. It was like we still had that chemistry, And I used to always say to Betty, my wife, I said, I played with a bunch of warriors. I said, it wasn't just a baseball game. It was like war every night. We came to play. It was like war every night when you played against us. If you weren't prepared to come to war, you couldn't play us. And it was, the camaraderie is still there 35 years later.
That's terrific. And I loved reading about how much it meant to you, and to see Betty see those players react to you and say how much you had meant to that team. And another scene in the book, you talk about seeing Nolan Ryan at the airport, and he remembers that you hit a home run off of him, and that meant something, in front of and Betty also, who hadn't been your wife while you were playing Major League Baseball. So for her to hear these stories, it sounds like that was really rewarding for you.
For her to hear the Nolan Ryan story was real, again, when the Tigers, of course said, acknowledged me, and it made me feel good, made her feel good. But when we saw Nolan Ryan at the airport, because I had been telling her about Nolan Ryan for 15 years. We was 97 to 2012. I've been telling her about Nolan Ryan for 15 years. And then we get to, and we in the airport in Austin. And I said, Betty, there go Nolan Ryan. She said, what? I said, there go Nolan Ryan right there. So I walk up to him, I said, Nolan Ryan, Ruppert Jones. And he looks at me like he don't know who I am. I said, oh man. I was kind of embarrassed now because, I've been telling Betty all these years. So we go through the security line, and we meet up again. He said, you hit a home run off me. I said, that was 30 years ago. He said, I'm still mad about that. And she saw that exchange. And again, so it wasn't like, well, my husband, he didn't lie to me. My husband told me.
Right. And you actually hit 2 home runs off of him too, right? So after the Tigers, you play briefly for the Angels, and then you're out of baseball, and you write about how difficult of an experience that was when you're out of the game, sort of looking to find a job and a home even, and dealing with the drug and alcohol issues that you had. Can you talk about that stage of your life immediately after baseball?
Immediately after baseball, I was ready to go home. I didn't want to play anymore. It was the last couple of years with the Angels, it got so painful. I mean, I had pain. I live with pain because I used to always tell people afterwards, I said, it felt like I had elephants running around stomping in my head. Because, and there were times when I would be in so much pain that I would be sitting and I would be in the house physically in a fetal position. Okay, because for some reason, I don't know, it's just like I didn't have, I was in pain all the time. And so consequently, when I said, no, I don't want to play no more. I couldn't play anyway. I didn't have any talent. But I got into golf, and I played golf morning, noon, and night. That was my new drug of choice. Okay. Morning, noon, and night golf. I'd leave the house early in the morning, and I'd be gone, play golf all day because it kept me distracted. It kept me out between that little area between my ears. And it was, but at the end of the day, the demons would come back. The demons would come back. And I dealt with that. Sometimes I would drink myself to sleep sometimes because I couldn't sleep. And the blackouts started happening more. I started blacking out more and more. Can you imagine? Alcohol kills brain cells, and I got dead brain cells already. Mm-hmm. So I black out a lot. And
then on October 1st, 1991, you stopped drinking, on your own. How does that happen?
Well, I saw the devil. I saw the devil that night. I tell people that I saw the devil, and it wasn't a pretty sight. And I had a voice in my head. That voice that always talked to me says, "You're going to die." And that voice said it again, "You're going to die." So I said, God, if I make it through the night, I'll never drink alcohol again. And I made it through the night. I stopped drinking.
Amazing. And
Look, I never went to a rehab facility. I never went to anywhere. I just stopped drinking.
Not easy. And you're searching for answers. I think it was during that period that you first get your ADHD diagnosis, and then you meet your.
That was, hold on now, that was okay. 5 years later.
5 years later, okay.
Okay, what I did was I started reading a lot of books. Okay, I started reading a lot, Andrew. I had to replace that. I had to replace them habits I had with something positive.
Right.
See, a lot of times people don't, they stop something, but you got to replace it, and you got to replace it with some positive things. So I replaced it kind of like with reading. And when I first started reading, I realized how bad I was because I couldn't read. I couldn't. It took a half hour to read one page, but I'd stick to it and I'd read it. And I got to the point where I was reading three, 4 books a month, which was a lot for me. And then I started reading self-help books. I started reading all kinds of books, trying to find things out. And 1996 is when I discovered the ADHD, and I started taking medication. And when I started taking the medication, it seems like the right side of my brain started firing off. I had it's like electrical currents was going through my brain. It was like things were being activated that hadn't been activated in years. So now I got the ability to now, from what I know now, I was not, part of my brain was not working properly. the part that I ran to the wall was not working properly. But for me to try to explain that to somebody else, I couldn't do it. I couldn't explain it to myself, but I knew right away, wow, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And I started taking up, Wellbutrin, antidepressant, and it really worked. But it gave me some heart palpitations. So when I go work out the gym, I couldn't work out. Well, what I did was, I said, this medication is making me feel better, making me better. It's helping me out. I said, it's worth it. So I started working out for a little while. And then I was able to go back once I got used to the medication.
Okay. And then it was one day at the gym where you met someone, it turned out to be a pretty important event in your life.
Met my wife. Andrew, just go to show you, if you do the right things, Andrew, and you do what you're supposed to do, good things happen to you. And I met my wife. And I made 3 promises to God that I've kept in my life. I made a whole lot of promises to God, but I made 3 promises that I kept, and I kept to God. You want to know what they are, Andrew, or do you know them?
I want to know what they are for sure.
The first promise I made to God that I kept was that I was going to stop drinking. I was going to never drink again. That's been about 30 years now. The second promise I made was I was going to finish that book. It took me 7 years, but I promised I was going to finish that book. The third one I made was I was going to get it published. It's one thing to get it written and everything else. The next thing is to get it published.
Right.
And we got it published.
That's great. Well, congratulations. And I know it took me 8 years to write my first book. And so I feel what you went through with 6 years. And, you're investigating your own life and the most difficult parts of your own life for those 6 years. So that's quite an accomplishment. Congratulations on that. And, we brought up the fact that you met your wife, and I think that your relationship with Betty is a really important part of the book. It sounds like she is just the right person that you needed in your life at just the right time.
Yeah.
Can you talk about how she sort of her patience and love for you has helped guide you to this point in your life now where you seem to be so happy and at peace?
She stuck with me through some very difficult times. Even though I had stopped doing the drinking, I stopped doing this, I still had the after effects of everything. And those things do not go away overnight. It's like anything we do, Andrew, if we have a problem, okay, people think that, it's going to be solved overnight. No, it's not going to be solved overnight. It's going to take time to solve these problems you got. And you got to be willing to make that effort to solve these problems. And she just happened to be there, and she was there with me through thick and thin. And she helped me recognize my own behavior, and she wouldn't tolerate my behavior, so she would tell me. But she made me aware of my behavior, of how I was. And that really, really, really was helpful. And eventually, we together found out, and she said, this is, she said, yeah, this explains it all. And I say the last 7 years of our life has been fantastic. Okay, she stuck with me through thick and thin, but the last 7, 8 years have been fantastic. And she's been very instrumental in the book. Mm-hmm. Because Andrew, I wrote this book with pencil and paper. Did I tell you that?
No, I didn't know that.
I wrote it with pencil and paper, Andrew, and I would transcribe to her, and she put it on the computer.
Wow.
Because my brain is all scrambled and everything, and you should see my writing, man.
She's the only one that can read it, huh?
I can't even read it, Andrew. But I can't type my thoughts, but I can write them. So I did a pencil and paper, and she would transcribe for me. And then when it came down to doing the forward, she was telling me that, who we gonna get to do the forward? I said, I want you to do the forward. She said, no, we need somebody famous. I said, no, I want you to do the forward because you know me better than anybody. Don't nobody know me as well as you.
Mm-hmm.
Why should I let some stranger do my forward? And so she did the forward. She's getting a lot of compliments on the forward.
Yeah, it's great.
People are complimenting her on the forward.
It's really well done. So with her help and with help of doctors, as greater knowledge started to be learned about, what is traumatic brain injury, there's more media coverage of it. There's the movie you talked about watching. Like, what is it that you learned about yourself and what you had been dealing with all these years? What's the understanding that you have now?
You want to know the truth? Never give up. Okay? Never give up. I looked for answers for a long time. I had no clue where I was looking for these answers. I looked for answers a long time. But I just knew there was something. There was an answer. There was something, an explanation. And I also knew that I could live somewhat of a normal life. I still have issues, Andrew. We're talking about brain and then cognitive. See, a lot of people take cognitive things for granted. When you have a brain injury, you lose you get cognitive impairments, and they affect certain parts of of the brain that affects the body and how we operate. And so we have to find, we find out more about ourselves. I'll give you, for instance, I try and write down everything I do during the course of a day, all the positive things I do in a day, so I can feel good, so I can look at the end of the day where I did this, I did it, we do crossword puzzles, I put that down. I do Sudoku, I read my Bible, I hit golf balls, I'll go work out at the gym, but I put all these things down so I can look at myself and try to keep positive habits. So I don't want to get into where I'm getting negative, because it's easy to get negative. So I try to create a positivity around me, knowing that I'm fighting negativity, because depression and negativity are kind of like they brothers. Mm-hmm. And so consequently, I'm fighting that. I'm, meditation, you name it. I try it. Eating right. Fruits and vegetables, brain food. So I try it. As a matter of fact, I've cut. I don't do medications anymore. I've gotten myself to the point where I cut the medication off. I was doing a lot of supplements too, trying to, brain supplements, fish oil, Creole oil. I mean, you name it. Anything that, but now I cut it all off and I just go fruits and vegetables now. I was reading a book and it says all these vegetables and all these fruits do this. They cut the high blood pressure down, they hypertension, heart, So I said, what the heck? I'm taking supplements. I just eat fruits and vegetables all the time.
Right.
I eat fruits and vegetables all the time.
Which we all should be doing. It's crazy that we forget to do it,
Andrew, it's amazing. I bought a book and I read the first 50 pages and all it talked about was fruits and vegetables. Had all the supplements that you need.
Well, I mean, that's the part of the book that I really, I don't know if admired is the right word, but I took a lot from it, where you're talking about just the mindfulness exercises that you're going through now, sort of the intentional way that you live your day, and writing down what you're doing, keeping a journal, doing a lot of reading, do a lot of deep breathing and meditating. I think so many of us forget to do those things. And it's, hear about self-care or, mindfulness, and you've really adopted it in a strong way. And it's amazing to see the results. Towards the end of the book,
Andrew,
yes, sir.
I'm determined to try to beat this, it's been beating up on me for a long time, Andrew. I've been getting beat up for a long time. I said, I start fighting back. Okay. I start fighting back. I even talk to myself now when I start trying to get negative in my mind. I'll start talking to myself. No, I ain't gonna listen to you no more. I'm tired of listening to you. I listen to you and all I do is get in trouble. So consequently, Andrew, I do it.
Yeah.
If I don't, then it would tell me what it wants to do. I don't want it to tell me what to do. I want to tell it what to do.
And towards the end of the book, you said that, in our lives, if everything's going well, like, what do we really learn? And I don't suppose that you're happy that you ran into that fence in Oakland, and you might say, like, if you had to do it over, like, you would have played in that spot and not let Tommy John tell you where to go, and you wouldn't have run into that wall. But in any ways, do you feel like the experience that you have had since then, and what you've learned about yourself, what you've learned about human nature, like what you can pass on to other people, like in some ways this has given you a purpose that really matters, that can benefit people? Like you've obviously learned so much about yourself and people and mental health. Are there any ways that you're pleased in the position you are now, that you're able to share this wisdom that you've gained?
Andrew, I don't care who you are, whether you got $1 billion, whether you got $50. We all got problems. The only people who don't have problems, Andrew, are dead.
Right.
Okay. Now everybody think, oh, he got all this money, he got problems. Okay. Well, you don't have that much money, so you think you got problems. You think your problems are worse than everybody got problems. It's how we deal with them. Okay. It's how we deal with them. We have to understand that we're gonna have problems. We're gonna have challenges throughout our lives until you stop breathing. Okay. But people think that, okay, this is gonna solve my problem. No, it's not gonna solve my, because another problem is gonna present itself. What we got to do is we got to prepare ourselves to learn how to deal with our problems. Not let somebody else, not look for somebody else to deal with them, but we get to deal with them. I said, I got a saying in the book, you got to face your demons sooner or later. And later may be too late. A lot of sayings like that, I made that one up. But I love Churchill. If you're going through hell, keep going.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of my favorites.
Yeah. I mean, that gets to the title of your book, Never Give Up. Keep going.
Keep going. Why you want to stop? Because when you stop, what happens?
Yeah. Well, before I let you go, I wanted to ask you a couple of real quick baseball related questions. So my son is 7 years old and he's about to play on a team this summer. He needed a new glove. He just had like a little toddler's toy glove before. So we went to the sporting goods store and the guy was trying to sell us a Wilson. And I realized I hadn't really thought about it, but I was like, no, we are not buying a Wilson. I want a Rawlings. Even for my 7-year-old, I'm like, I'm a Rawlings guy. I don't know where that came from, but I've always had Rawlings gloves. What type of glove did you play with in the major leagues?
I played Wilson. I played Rawlings. I played them both.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, if you got a 7-year-old kid, I'm gonna give you the best advice I can give you.
All right.
Okay. You got parks near you where they got a wall?
Yeah.
You get your son some tennis balls. Take him to the park. You can go read or you can go write. And he can throw the ball up against the wall. He can learn how to throw and catch at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And you won't have to chase no ball.
That's good for an old dad like me. Yeah.
Okay. Because you know what? He throw it against the wall, it's gonna come back to him.
Yeah.
Okay, if he throw it high, it's gonna come in the air. If he throws it low, it's gonna come in a short hop or a long hop or whatever. But he'll learn how to catch and throw at the same time, Andrew.
All right, double the pleasure. And how about what type of bat did you use in the majors?
I use several. I use several models. I didn't stick with one particular model. certain guys stuck with, as a matter of fact, I designed the bat one time for myself, but with a bottle knob.
Okay.
But yeah, so I use several bats. So
Oh,
for me to tell you which one I use, I wouldn't know.
yeah. Louisville Slugger though.
That was at ADD.
Yeah. Well,
Louisville Slugger at a run back.
okay.
I use them, but most of the time it's Louisville Slugger.
One other thing I wanted to mention, I know you're on Twitter and I enjoy following you on Twitter. It seems like you have fun engaging with your fans on there. I know Rod Carew is on Twitter recently. It seems like he's having a lot of fun with it. What's that experience been like for you to sort of re-engage with people that watched you play 30, 40 years ago, on social media?
My wife is responsible for that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm so old fashioned and everything else. I'm electronically challenged. And she got me on Twitter from time to time. So from time to time, I'll say things that are very appropriate. She wants me to interact more with people and everything. And she said, you just can't go on Twitter and just talk about yourself. You got to interact with people. So I try a little bit to interact with people.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun. I love hearing stories from you and Carew and anybody who played back then. So Ruppert, thank you. I want to show this book to people again. It's called Never Give Up, a memoir of baseball and traumatic brain injury by Ruppert Jones with Ryan Dempsey. You can find it on Amazon. I really encourage people to go out and buy it. You'll learn a lot. You'll really come to admire and understand Ruppert Jones. So Ruppert, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to say to people here on the way out?
I guess what I'd like to say to people is life is difficult. Baseball, you look at baseball, the game of baseball, successful hitters they hit 300, but they make 7 outs out of 10. They make 7 outs out of 10 at bats, or they make 70 outs out of 100 at bats. Life is, deal with failure and success. And if you don't deal with the failures, it's going to be hard to have success, because they go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. Failure and success go hand in hand. You got to experience one and to have the other. I won one championship, World Series championship, but I know what? I'm a champion. But a lot of years I didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
I won 4 championships. I won 5 championships my whole life. I remember all 5 of them, but I won. So if there's anything I like to tell people is, hey, you got to put it in there. You got to put time in. You got to put time in. You got to put the effort in. And you can't be afraid to fail.
That's right. Well, thank you for putting the time into this book, Ruppert. I think a lot of people are going to gain a lot from it. And like I said, everybody go out and buy it. Thanks, Ruppert. Take care.
Thank you, Andrew.